How did you acquire your first customer? When did you start the company? And what was the overall experience like?
That I was working like 60 hours a week, something like $75,000 worth of work that I've done over the years. I've used some tools to help me to build.
What's your overall marketing budget?
We're planning $1,000 a month.
How do you screen and hire technicians?
Work on leadership. My best lead source is still referrals.
What about HVAC trucks?
Buy used vehicles. Listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, find books to read, be a student of HVAC.
Hello everyone, what's up? I'm Yash this side, and welcome to episode 3 of the HVAC Hotshots, the podcast where we deep dive into the nitty-gritty of running a successful HVAC business. I'm your host, Yash from HVAC10x.com, a marketing agency that guarantees results for HVAC companies. Today, I'm thrilled to have a special guest who's making crazy waves in the industry. I have Chris Plunkett on the show, the owner of Tailored Mechanical, widely regarded as the best HVAC company in Tucson, Arizona. Chris isn't just a successful business owner, he is also a coach at Concur Coaching, sharing his expertise with other HVAC professionals. We are gonna pick Chris' brain about what it really takes to run a successful HVAC business. No fluff, no BS, just real talk about the ups, downs, and everything in between. Whether you are a seasoned pro or just getting your feet wet in the industry, I promise you'll walk away with some golden nuggets. So grab a coffee and let's get started. Hey Chris, before we kick things off, could you please introduce yourself, your company, and yeah, since long how you have been into the business?
Yeah, so Yash, it's great to be on. Actually, my name is Chris. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm a business coach, but I also own an air conditioning business here in the desert. And I actually am maybe like some of the folks out there, I actually grew up in the industry. My dad had an air conditioning business, and I worked with him when I was little. And I mean, I've literally done everything there is to do in construction, but I always came back to air conditioning. Just from a very early age, I realized this was something that I had a passion for and I liked doing. And it's very rewarding to be able to help people. So that's a little bit about me.
Was there a particular moment or experience that made you think that that hey, this is what I wanna do in life, and this is the industry that I wanna be in?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I was about 8 years old, I was on a service call with my dad after hours. He picked me up after school, and I went and was working with him. And my dad has the gift of gab, and he was chatting with the customer, and it was starting to get late, and it was also cold in this person's house because it was the middle of winter, and I really wanted to go home. And so at 8 years old, I changed out my first blower motor on a furnace. And by the time I finished, he was just coming down to the basement to, get started. And I was putting the panels back on, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? We got to get this motor changed." I was like, I pushed the panel in, and the furnace fired up, and I remember like the look on his face where he was so surprised, but he was so proud that the what he had taught me had stuck. And even at such an early age, I was able to accomplish that, changing out that blower motor. And that was one of those things where I realized this was something I wanted to do because, one, it made my dad proud. Two, it made myself proud. And three, like I realized I could help people by doing this. So that was what really made me end up staying in the industry all these years. I'm 40 now, so I can tell people I've been doing this job for 32 years, and it's true.
Crazy. You have HVAC in your genetics. Let's
Yeah.
start at the beginning. How did you acquire your first customer? When did you start the company? And what was the overall experience like?
Yeah, I started my company in 2013, middle of summer. I just really wanted to be able to focus my time on being with family, which for me is just my wife. We don't have any kids or any pets. But I wanted to be able to spend more time doing the things that we liked to do together. Um,
Hmm.
the word got around through her family that I was going to be starting my own business, and one of her cousins got me my first job. He talked me up to all the people he worked with in the office, and one of those people reached out to me. It was my first service call that I ever ran, and to this day, that one cousin is probably responsible for something like $75,000 worth of work that I've done over the years. So pretty great referral source. And I think that's probably my biggest thing is just I rely a lot on referrals to run the business.
I see. Yep, referral is definitely a great source. But now that you have grown so big, what's been your best lead source? How has that evolved over year?
I will say that my best lead source is still referrals. It always has been
Mm-hmm.
and probably always will be. The cost for your customer acquisition is very low. Provided that you do really good work for people and you treat them right and give them a fair price, not necessarily a low price, but a fair price, you're bound to get referrals, but you've got to ask for them. So I think that
If it,
over the
Mhm.
over sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
Well,
Sorry to
over
interrupt
the
you.
over the years, I think that we've done other things to help grow the business and to increase what we're doing. But the best, most consistent thing for us is that lead generation is referrals.
If you don't mind me asking this, could you please tell us the share of different lead sources in your company?
Yeah, so I mean, we spend maybe a few $100 a week on Google Local Services, the LSA,
Mm-hmm.
available in certain markets. We do have somebody that we pay for things like SEO, things like that, and ultimately those things are necessary. We do have to have those things in our business. We want to bring in new business, and people won't be able to know we exist if we don't have a digital footprint. So it is important to have those things in place, definitely.
Exactly. What's your overall marketing budget? I know, it would obviously differ on with season you're in and stuff like that, but what's your average marketing budget each month?
So it's really going to depend for us based on, like you said, the seasonality.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in what we would call growth mode, it can be anywhere from 7.5 to 10% of what we project for revenue for the month.
Mm-hmm.
It can be as little as 2.5 to 5% if we're not necessarily needing more work. So it really depends on what we're planning. If we're planning $100,000 a month and that's a big month for us, like we know that it's not going to take a lot for us to get there, we might decrease our budget maybe around 5%. If we're going into a shoulder season and that's upcoming, then we might ramp the marketing up a little bit, 7.5 to 10%, so that we can really get that influx of new customers. It just really is going to depend on how things are going, but it's really important though that we know our numbers and what our budget looks like so that we can make those plans.
Makes perfect sense. A great point here. Now, for those just starting out, what marketing channels would you recommend on a small, let's say, they're having a really small budget, and what would be the marketing channel you would recommend to get consistent leads?
Yeah, it's important to, like I mentioned, have a good digital footprint. So having
Mm-hmm.
somebody who can handle things like your SEO, making sure that your website is operating properly, so that Google is actually looking at it as favorable. That's important. Uh, another really important avenue I would say is making sure people know you exist in your community. So being active on Facebook groups where it's the community that you live in or a community that you like to service, and being a part of those Facebook groups. So those a lot of people have a lot of success in moms groups. So those are, Facebook is definitely a tool. I won't say that marketing on Facebook, like paying for boosted posts and stuff like that, is really a great thing. I personally didn't see a lot of return on that, but being a part of online communities or Facebook groups where people are asking for referrals, that's definitely a great place to be. I think another really good source for people is places where you can network in person, BNI, Chamber of Commerce, other local communities. One of my mentees is part of a local group that it's free to be a part of, and they do really well with it. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to spend money, but remember that your time is money too. So you are making some type of investment in that networking.
So to sum it up, your recommendation would be to focus on digital footprint. That would be local service ads, SEO, website and local SEO, obviously, plus PPC. Other than that, building a great relationship, obviously with real estate agents, and other than that, having a really good local presence, right? That would be your advice.
Yeah, and in real estate agents can be a really good one. But
Yeah,
think about the people that real estate agents reach out to as well. People like home inspectors, roofers, plumbers. If you're not a plumber, those other kinds of things can really add to what are wanting to bring or receive. I guess you could say.
makes perfect sense. Shifting topic a bit, let's talk about your sales process. Can you walk us through how your comfort advisors, approach potential clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So we went through a sales training. I went through a sales training years ago, and it's one of the best training programs that I've ever been through. It gave me a very good foundation off of which to run all my sales appointments. We start off by asking questions to the homeowner that help us to get to what their real needs are, and then help them to not just identify them but realize that they want those things taken care of, and what the priority is on those. When we do that, we're able to build a system for them in terms of the sales process that they want. And it's not really sale, it's more of a consultation. And so we really have taken on that consultative method, and that seems to be the best approach for us. And so when we get into offering whatever the solution is that we've come up with, we're not really telling them, hey, this is what we think is best for your home. We're telling them, hey, based on what you said you wanted, this is what we need to give you.
So the key here is to actually help them rather than being salesy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you sorry to interrupt you. Do you have any sort of resources that you would recommend to anyone looking to learn more about sales and stuff like that?
Sorry, the connection wasn't so great. Do I have recommendations for what?
For anyone looking to learn more about sales and how to actually pursue it, stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah. So we actually, even though I have that platform off of which we built for our sales process,
Hmm.
that doesn't necessarily mean everybody has sales ability, right? And so there's
Yeah.
things like objections and how to overcome them and how to build rapport. And so we are actually, our team is utilizing my elite sales trainer, and the confidence boost that my team has gotten just in a few short weeks has been tremendous. I've noticed a big change in several of our technicians' approach on a day to day because they're feeling more confident. And one of the things that Ariel, my sales trainer, teaches is that, and I'm probably going to butcher this, sales, or excuse me, not sales, but product knowledge boosts confidence, and your confidence is realistically what's going to help you close things. And I know I totally butchered that. Please don't get mad at me, Ariel. I have it written down, so I could look it up and tell you exactly what it is. But it, building confidence in your people and their product knowledge and things like that is super important. So if you want somebody to be good at sales, make sure that they know a lot about the thing that they're going to be talking about, because the last thing somebody wants to do is go into a conversation, be asked a question they don't know the answer to, and then look foolish. And so build that confidence up, train with them. If you're looking for specific programs, like I said, my elite sales trainer, he's really great. I did a sales training through Pressure Selling. That's affiliated with the American Standard Group. So I mean, there's a lot of things that you can, a lot of resources out there, and a lot of them are different. And so if you aren't somebody who wants to do a lot of high pressure selling, find somebody who can teach you a consultative method.
Gotcha. So you would recommend everyone to actually find a mentor, and actually work with them, right? Fun
I
fact:
definitely.
I'm actually having a chat with Ariel next week on this
Oh,
podcast. So yeah,
Ariel is great. You're absolutely gonna love talking with him. He really understands that process of going through sales, very deeply. So you're gonna enjoy it.
thanks for it. Speaking of your team, how do you screen and hire technicians? What qualities mainly do you look for?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So we hire, train, fire, and promote based on our core values. I've used some AI tools to help me to build, based on those core values, a evaluation utilizing something called Myers-Briggs, so MBTI. And based on the types of things that we're looking for in either a technician or an installer or an office person, we've been able to identify these are the personality types that would fit best in this role. And based on what fits best, these are the questions that we should, or let me start. These are the things that we should put in our ad that will attract those types of individuals. Based on that, we should get the type of people we're looking for. And then to screen that a little bit more, we're actually using an evaluation. I think it's 20 questions that we ask, and that helps us to identify what MBTI results are we getting. Based on those results, we'll determine whether or not that person is going to be a good fit or not. That's actually going to help us to determine whether or not they're going to move on to the next stage, which is then a conversation and a evaluation of their mechanical ability. And so we don't actually interview somebody until they've gone through a couple of different steps. So it really helps us to screen out candidates that don't really meet the qualifications that we're looking for, which are deeper than can this person fix an air conditioner? Because I can teach just about anybody to fix an air conditioner. I can't teach people the other things that we're looking for in the soft skills. Can they have a conversation? Are they coachable? Are they humble? Right. And so being able to weed those people out that are not, that saves me a lot of time in interviewing and potentially hiring the wrong type of people.
That's a really interesting one. You talked about having 20 questions. Could you shed more light on that? What sort of questions is it?
So they're not questions like, are you a people person? They're questions that go deeper. I'm trying to think because I have them in my Google Drive. It's deeper things like, if you're at a party, do you prefer to sit in a corner and observe, or do you like to be in the middle of the action? And there's several questions like that to help to determine whether this person leans more towards being an introvert or an extrovert. So
Makes
questions,
perfect sense.
and there's multiple different types of indicators in that assessment.
Sorry if I'm asking you a lot, but are you fine sharing those questions? Maybe the drive link or docs link if you have that with the people watching this. I'll leave that in the description if that's fine.
Yeah, I'll dig it up.
Sure
It,
thing.
the, that I don't mind sharing that, but somebody's going to have to do the work on the back end for how to score that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that actually goes into a custom GPT that I've built.
Gotcha.
So,
That's a really interesting
so
one.
I don't mind sharing it, but people aren't going to know how to interpret that data when it's.
You are the first one I'm actually talking to who's really diving into ChatGPT, AI, and stuff at this level. Coming to the next one, once you have got great techs on board, how do you ensure they are efficient at the work?
Oh yeah. So one of our core values is training, and the way that we make sure that our technicians are good at what they do is we train on Mondays and Fridays. So Mondays are what we call soft skills day, where it has nothing to do with turning the wrenches. It's all about dealing with customers. It might be for instance, on our sales training with Ariel is actually on Mondays. Not every Monday, but I think it's every other Monday. The other one, we actually will cover things like our our core values. So we'll pick a core value and we'll discuss that, and we'll talk about how we can better exemplify that while we're out in the field. Or we'll talk about our process for offering options, or something like that. And then on Fridays we do the hands-on training, where it doesn't necessarily mean we're out in the shop wrenching on something, but maybe we'll be learning about a topic, why capacitor fails and how to identify certain things that are problematic, or different things like that. We'll watch some videos that are available on YouTube. We'll do a number of things that level up our technicians. And it's interesting because We have technicians who are at different skill levels throughout the years, right? And so you might think, well, if we're going to do hands-on training, it's some people are going to be bored and some people are going to be left behind, depending on who we're catering to. But realistically, what I found is that no matter what we're training on, the new people are going to learn something new, and the people that have been there for a long time are going to get a review and probably remember something that they forgot, or maybe even fill in some gaps on some things that they thought they knew.
Gotcha.
Uh, that's one way that we make sure that our technicians are working efficiently. We also utilize checklists, and we have a digital CRM that we use, so that helps the technicians to know what's been done in our clients' homes before. We use House Call Pro, and we have that linked with company cams, so we have pictures and videos of everything that we've ever done, which is really great.
Gotcha. So no matter what level they are or how great they are, you're always honing their skill. Makes perfect sense. Shifting approach a bit again, let's discuss the business side. What's your take on the best way to structure an HVAC business? LLC, S Corp, or something else? Actually, this was a comment I got on a Facebook group. I saw this on a Facebook group. So yeah, thought to ask this. Ask you this.
The best way to structure is going to be based on your what you want out of the business. I always recommend that you do something that protects your personal assets, but I wouldn't say you should be an S corp or a C corp or an LLC. I would say you should talk with the CPA about the ramifications for taxes, because that's what's going to matter the most, right?
Mm.
Your structure definitely form some type of a limited liability company that protects you, so that somebody can't come after your house in the unlikely event that something bad happens. Make sure that you're protected, but also make sure that a CPA has helped you to build the right type of organization, so that you are maximizing your tax benefits. And that's realistically what an S corp or a C corp or this or that really come down to.
Gotcha. Again, got this question from Facebook group. For those just starting up, any recommendations on customer financing options, especially when many lenders require at least a year in the business.
That's a tough one, because I know there's some lenders out there who will work with new companies. I don't know off the top of my head who they are. Definitely, if you're watching this and you're a business that's less than a year in, find somebody. Financing is like the next level, man. I can't tell you how many times we get projects that we wouldn't have been able. If you look at the statistics, I think that it's something like, gosh, don't fact check me on this. It's something like 50% of people in the United States right now couldn't write a check for $1,000, but your repair could be more than $1,000. So
Mhm.
they're forced to find another option because you don't have financing as an offer to them. And don't be that person who says, well, even if you offer financing already, don't don't offer somebody a repair cost without offering financing as an option, because the last thing you want to do is come back to somebody and say, well, if you can't afford it, we can always finance it, because man, does that make people feel like crap. Always,
Yeah.
always, always include financing options in whatever you're offering. I know that with with the CRM House Call Pro, they have partnered with WiseTech, and WiseTech is built right into that. And you do have to be qualified to use WiseTech, but they're a really good option, and I think that you can, you know, really level up your game, if you will, by utilizing something like that.
Gotcha. This one is actually a golden nugget. Now, as the business grows, how do you decide between hiring more techs or bringing on admin support?
Yeah, so this is a good one. So for me, when I was still working in the field, what I would do is I would realize that I realized that I was working like 60 hours a week. And I was like, man, I started my business all these years ago to be able to spend more time with my wife and doing the things that we want to do. And now here I am working as much as I used to. So I realized, okay, it's time for me to hire somebody. I gave him the 40 hours and I worked 20 and then worked on growing the business. As things grew and he and I were working more and more hours, realistically, once I got working 40 hours again, I realized it was time to hire a second person. And now I'm basically out of the field. And I was kind of the admin person. Well, then things got busy again, and it wasn't quite enough to hire another person. So they were working, 50, 60 hours each, those two. And I was working, a few hours. And so finally I said, okay, I got to hire a third person. At the time when I hired the third person, that's when it became obvious to me that I can't manage the people in the field and handle all of the office duties. And so what we did was my wife actually moved into the role of working in the office. I was really lucky in that she has some management experience. She worked in a dental office for years, and she finally, after 15, 16 years in the dental field, retired from that and came to run our office. And so I got really lucky in being able to pull my wife into the business and have her help us out. And so I was able to kind of handle all the field operations, and she was our office coordinator. And so we still we still utilized kind of that way of operating. And I would say that probably about every 3 to 5 people, depending on how your organization runs, you should be looking at an admin person to support that that many people. So, if you're 3 to 5 people, you should be able to run fairly efficiently with one admin. Once you get past that five, you're pushing it. You're going to need another person, even at six, and that's going to help things to stay running optimally. Work as kind of that partial admin position and managing the field as well. And so we're able to run a pretty lean operation and build the business so that it's profitable.
So it's not a one for all answer. Rather, depending on how much they're willing to put in efforts and time, right? Makes sense.
Very true.
What about HVAC trucks? Should new owners buy or lease them? What's your view on that?
Ooh, this is kind of similar to the other question about LLC versus Corp versus C Corp, right? There are benefits and drawbacks to each of those. I'll touch on a couple. So, one of the benefits of having a lease on a vehicle is that it's not on your personal credit. If you have business credit established, then it also isn't on there. Um, it's a lease is different. There are some benefits to being able to. It's not an asset on your books, and so as it's a 100% a liability, all of the payments you make are able to be written off. So there's some benefit there. Um, but then at the end of the term, you either give the vehicle back or you pay money to keep it. So there's some benefits, but there's some drawbacks. And so if you're of the mindset that every 4 years I want a new truck no matter what, a lease may be a really good option. But I definitely recommend, and I can't recommend this enough, talk with a CPA about the benefits and the drawbacks of lease versus purchase and look into that lease and understand it really well, because I got coupled with a less than favorable lease a few years back. I'm working through it. I'm not still kicking myself over it, but I'm not too thrilled about the terms that I ended up with, and it was because I made the mistake of signing paperwork without really understanding the things. And had I spoken with my CPA about it, I would have made a different decision. But that said, if the terms were a little bit more favorable, it would have ended up being something really, really good for our business. It was nice for me to be able to take vehicles off of my personal credit because we wanted to get our debt to income ratio decreased and refinance a couple things. And so there's definitely a big benefit there. But again, make sure you understand those terms. Make sure that the CPA has reviewed the benefits and the drawbacks for tax purposes. That's my speech on leases.
That's a perfect advice. Everyone watching this, you
One
heard
one more
Chris. Yeah,
one more thing on that. What you didn't hear me say is buy used vehicles. You didn't hear me say that, and here's why. You make a monthly payment on a vehicle anywhere from $500 to $900 a month. That money that you spend on that vehicle is cheaper than having a clunker go down on you in the middle of your busy season. Every day that that truck's not working, you're losing money. Now, if you have newer used trucks, that's probably okay, right? But don't buy cheap trucks. Don't buy cheap vehicles for your business unless you're like a gifted mechanic and you can get that vehicle back on the road lickety split and keep that technician operating. You just don't want to waste that time. You won't want to have your technician broken down. Your technician doesn't want to be broken down on the side of the road waiting for him to be picked up by a tow truck, right? And wondering where's his vehicle going to go? Are his tools going to get stolen? All these different things that go through a technician's mind that maybe are rational, maybe they're irrational. But don't don't skimp on that. That's one of those things where make the investment, get good vehicles for your business, and make sure that your technicians aren't going to be set up for failure. They're set up for success.
This was a really good one, actually. On the topic of vehicles, do you recommend wrapping vans right away for branding, or is that something to consider later on?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a strong brand, like right out of the gate, you have something that looks good and it's ready to go. Get it done, make it happen. It's part of your strategy for getting business, right? If people know who you are and know that you exist, you're gonna get that business. If people don't know who you are and your truck has, you know, maybe some lettering on it, maybe you're gonna look like everybody else, and nobody wants to pay a premium for trucking a truck.
True.
Nobody wants to pay what you value yourself at if you yourself don't show that you're worth that value. So,
Really.
building a strong image, building a strong brand, it's definitely something that is important. You mentioned, I think you've talked with Michael Johnson. He did a rebranding recently. You look at his trucks, you look at what he's got. I
Yeah,
mean, his stuff looks amazing. That might not be something somebody can afford as a new business, but making that priority in that you are putting the money aside to make that happen as fast as you can, I would definitely encourage that.
perfect. Makes sense. So branding is kind of a gateway to charging premium. Yeah. Now, question from one of our listeners who's currently in HVAC school, actually. He's torn between residential and commercial HVAC. What are your thoughts on the pros and cons of each? And can skills from commercial work apply to residential jobs? Like working on your home, stuff like that.
Sure. I see people post questions on different groups that I'm in on Facebook where they ask, I see guys who are in commercial and they're like, hey, trying to work on something at my house. How do I XYZ? And I see people, they're like, you're in the trade and you don't know how to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, those skills don't necessarily translate one to the other. In our area in Tucson, we have a lot of package equipment that you would see on commercial buildings, like light commercial, 5 tons and under. We see a lot of that in the residential market as well. And so there's a lot of people who have commercial experience, light commercial experience is realistically what it is, who that translates over really easily. There are people who are in the industrial and heavy commercial world working on chillers and boilers and big things like that information and knowledge does not necessarily translate down to the residential market. And so there can be some pretty big differences. Standing, listen, if you're in school, make sure that you understand the refrigeration cycle inside and out. Make sure that you understand how to read a diagram, whether it's for a 500-ton package unit, a 350-ton chiller, a 2 million BTU boiler, or an 80,000 BTU furnace. Make sure that you understand the skills that go into that. Don't just rely on my instructor told me. Be a student of HVAC. Don't just get that surface level information that your teacher's offering. Listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, find books to read, get a better understanding, and then it won't matter if you do residential or commercial or industrial. You'll be able to do all those things. And if you're wondering, should I learn this versus that because I'm going to school now, or should I go into this after school? Try out all of them. Work 3 months for a residential company, work a couple months for an industrial controls company, work a few months for a big commercial outfit. Don't just go somewhere and stay there because you know how to do this. See if, I mean, I know a guy that I worked with years ago who he was a residential guy. I love residential equipment. Then he got enticed into working in a refrigeration company where all they did was rack systems for stores, right? So you go into the grocery store and there's cold food. He's responsible for working on those systems and he loves it. And he's like, I don't ever want to touch another residential system. Me, I went with him one day to one of the jobs he was working on, and I looked around and I was like, I don't want nothing to do with this. It's hot in here. It's like the nastiest working conditions to me, right? I don't want anything to do with this. But he goes, you know what? I don't enjoy working directly with customers and interfacing with people and selling things. I'd rather be able to just go in, do my work, and then go home. And so there's different aspects and different things that may be a better fit for you. So if you're in school, explore the different avenues that are out there. There's so many opportunities to be involved in this industry. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be on the wrench turning side of things. You know, you could be go to school for HVAC, realize that maybe this isn't exactly what I wanted to do, but you could get into working behind the counter. You could get into working in the finance side. There's a lot of different opportunities in HVAC. So don't let one bad company or bad experience in the field deter you from continuing, being a part of this trade.
It's about it's about finding what you love, explore whatever you can, and see what works for you.
Yeah.
To wrap up, what's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you when you were just starting out with your HVAC business?
It's funny. I've been asked this question before, and I will tell you right now that I don't consider myself to be a great leader. I'm better than I was 11 years ago when I started my business. And I'm working on that all the time. Work on leadership. If you have plans to grow your company besides just being yourself in the field, work on your leadership. You absolutely have to work on leadership. And that came through working with a coach. My coach taught me that my leadership ability sucked. Real story, one of my employees, it didn't matter what the conversation was leading up to it. I told him, listen, you are here to make my life easier. Please just do that. And what I failed to realize is that I had it completely backwards. Yeah, his role in the company is to do things so that I don't necessarily have to be the one doing the thing. But what it really boils down to is that my role as an employer is not to get people to fix things for other people. My role is to make these people's lives better. They're out here busting their butts, hot, sweaty, gross, nasty conditions, and it's my job to make sure that their life is better because they're out here working for me. And that would probably be the number one thing I would say I wish somebody had taught me earlier was be a good leader. Find out what that means and then do it.
Really good. Oh man, this was one of the best one I ever had. You shared some of the best nuggets that one could. And yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate having a chat with you. To be very honest, the vibe of yours is just so positive. And yeah, I love it. I love it. I hope we'll have another podcast pretty soon. And I am pretty sure people will love this. That was it for from my side. If you have anything to add up here, feel free to.
No, I think that was good, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and chat with potential business owners, and
That was great. Yep. So guys, that was it. I'll see you on the next one. Till then, bye bye.